Jumped the gun a bit there. Hello. Good evening, ghouls and fiends. Welcome to another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I clicked the wrong button. The Ministry of Horror intro was running. It's been a week. It's been a week. Hi, this is the Ministry of Horror, your one-stop shop for horror news, reviews, occasionally a featured presentation. Also for cock-ups on running the intro music. But hey, that's what we do here. We don't do things in a neat and polished way. They're in a half-assed, slapdash, cocked-up way most of the time. But there they are. Anyway. Oof. Been a bit of a delay for doing a show. We normally aim to get this recorded on a Tuesday, to then get it out during the week every so often. And of course, it's we're live at the moment, by the way. If you're listening to this later on, as Eddie in the chat mentions, John Squires. We also have John Squires news, of course. Yeah, it's been a bit of a time. So normally on Tuesday I'd look to record the podcast. More often than not, I do it on a Wednesday, Thursday. But I kind of have it set in the household diary that Tuesday night is me recording night. And we've struggled a bit recently with films to get watched. But Monday I went to watch Evil Dead Burns, which we'll be reviewing later on the show. That'll be at the top of the show. Anyway, watched that Monday night. It's the idea then to record it on Tuesday. Took the wife to a hospital consultation meeting on Tuesday. Should only be like half an hour, just to do the usual pregnancy-related things like a pee test, sometimes blood pressure, that sort of thing. But yeah, the tests weren't great, and the blood pressure, which they used the wrong cuff to begin with, but the blood pressure reading was really bad. And so they wanted to take her to do some further tests, which they then said, you need to stay here, at least for tonight. They then said that due to what the tests have shown, you need to stay here until the baby is born. Now, bear in mind, at this current stage, our baby is due in September, early September. So that was a hell of a shock to the system, a hell of a lot for Victoria to deal with. And I'm still on crutches. I've got a removable cast at the moment, which I've got to wear for another 4 to 5 weeks. But I'm still on crutches, still incredibly weak. Still need to not overdo it, but also things that need doing. They just have to be done. And yeah, so I had to go home, look after the dogs, pack some overnight stuff, and come back to the hospital. And obviously every hospital is different, but with our hospital, like the car park is in one place, the ward and everything is at a completely different place. There's a lot of walking, so bear in mind I've been on recovery and on crutches. I've been averaging about 8,000 steps the last few days, which has calloused the fuck up of my palms from the crutches, and probably hasn't really been much good to the recovery of my ankle. But when it's your wife and your baby, then you don't really think about yourself. So yeah, they wanted to keep her in for a minimum 24 hours. After those 24 hours, they wanted to keep her in just for another 24 hours, but it may well be until the baby comes, and the baby may end up having to come much sooner, like 3 weeks sooner. So that's been stuff to deal with. Pretty heavy going. Fortunately, though, yesterday we actually got the good news that we can take it home. And we went in again today for tests, and they didn't show anything majorly concerning. I mean, the issues are still there, but the levels hadn't changed enough for them to say you need to stay back in. So currently in a position where every 2 days she has to go in for tests. I will try to go with her on all of them, but I've had to miss some work. And I've missed a lot of work recently because of my operations and such. So I'm conscious of that, and I will obviously be having paternity leave in the now not too distant future. But work have been really cool about that. So I will be resuming that next week and trying to go to the appointments that I can. If I can't, I'm just going to have to do some crazy hours to make up for it. But yeah, that's the long and short of it as to why you didn't get a show until the end of the week, but you got a live show. Well, that's a good thing or not, I don't know. It's not going to be a super long live show because where it's again been quite an intensive day. Well, this morning we were making sure to relax because Victoria she doesn't deal well with the hospitals. White coat syndrome, something you may or may not have heard of, but it just stresses her out. You can't sleep. It's too loud. It's too bright. No privacy. Too much going on. So she's had no sleep for like 3 nights, and then managed to sleep for about 12 hours yesterday. So it's obviously much better for her here. But ultimately, if things go wrong, you are in the best place in the hospital. So that's it's a bit of a good on one hand, good on the other, as to what the best course of action is. But yeah. So yeah, I kind of wanted to make sure that I get a podcast recorded today. But then also I want to do some more Warhammer, because Warhammer and the gym and horror are my therapies. So, what have I been up to? As mentioned, I went to watch Evil Dead Burns. We're going to review that a bit later on. I've also watched on Shudder, Jimmy and Stiggs. Interesting title. And also just today finished watching Devil's Mouth, which is the new shark film with Catherine Newton on Prime. Previously mentioned in the Ministry of Horror Discord by Fran as a recommendation. Fran, who's just popped into the chat right now. Look at that for timing. Evening, Fran. Hope everyone's okay. Good, thanks, Fran. Yes. I don't know if you just popped in. I've just sort of discussed what has been going on in the week. Yeah, if you wanted to hear the various details, then I'll put the podcast audio out at the weekend. But yeah, just done some kind of life updates. But yeah, watched Devil's Mouth as well on Prime, so we're going to be reviewing that a bit later on. And obviously, thank you to Fran for the recommendation in the Discord. So outside of that, I was very fortunate on Monday to receive, I don't know if I can grab it from here, the Stranger Things Arrow box set, the Dulux 4K box set. I haven't been able to test out any of the discs yet because of how crazy it has been this week. So hopefully this weekend I can start watching it. Obviously I've seen all the Stranger Things, but I want to watch all the special features. It's a really, really cool looking set. Really, really nice. These pretty cool slipcases for each of the sets. There's like each of the seasons. Loads of little extra items, and there's even like a 20-sided Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things dice. It's very, very cool. Patches and stuff like that, and loads of posters and stuff. Very cool set. I'm hoping we'll get Victoria to start watching Stranger Things, but she said that if she does start watching it, then I will have to watch it with her, so I can't go ahead and start watching my box sets until we watch it together. So we shall see about that. Other than that, no video gaming has happened this week. The last night when we were able to get Victoria home and got her to get some sleep, I did jump into doing a little bit of Warhammer. I haven't done any painting yet, but doing some building. So I can't really get to it. I've built a Corvus Black Star, which is basically a spaceship, and that's for the Death Watch thingamajiggy. But also built this intricate little mother flipper. This is a Demon Prince with wings. Now, the odd thing with Warhammer, and yes, it's very similar to... it's very similar on a slightly smaller scale to Angron. I am aware. I seem to like demons with wings, sure. Probably a bit of a cliche, but it's to go in the World Eater's army. But with the weird thing with Warhammer is some minis have a handful of parts, pop them together, glue them, easy peasy, job done. That one, even just putting together like a foot or a hoof, was like 5 different parts. Like, did not need to be as complicated as it was. Like, to build up the chest, you had to form different segments of the chest. There's no need for that. You didn't need to do the flat pack sprue of plastic in such small pieces. I don't know. Maybe it was an older model that they've then chucked into the combat patrol. Either way, it was it took a while, but it's done. And also did Master of Execution. So Warhammer wise, the plan is to finally build all of the items because I do now, I think, have a 2K World Eaters army. So I now just have to paint them, build them, and paint them. And then I'm going to finally learn how to play Warhammer. Maybe I'll do a video of me learning how to play Warhammer. I'm just going to have to go down to the Warhammer shop and have them show me because I've tried to watch some YouTube videos and it's just been like learning a foreign language, to be honest. Eddie in the chat says, a Goofy Goggles madman making a Stranger Things set fits perfectly. At least you're enjoying it. Yeah, this is the thing. Where it has been quite an emotion. It's been an emotional week. It's not going to beat around the bush. So the second that I'd got Victoria home and settled and resting and sleeping, I kind of needed to do a bit of mental therapy. And whether that is going to the gym, and unfortunately my new gym, there's a new gym that's opened up like literally a 5-minute stroll from me, if I've not stroll, 5-minute drive, if that. But now there's roadworks which make the trip a lot longer. And on top of that, it's got great equipment, it's huge, but it is also it's a leisure centre. It's full of broccoli haired douches and I'm not to be judgmental, but I like to go in the gym and just do what I want, do what I need to do with my routine, and then go. It's very busy all the time, middle of the day, first thing in the morning. I haven't been in the evening. Maybe that's the one to try. I don't know, but point being, those are the sort of things that give me a mental reset. Going to the gym puts me in a great mood. Building and painting Warhammer with an audiobook on, or a film, or a TV show. The TV show I've had on this week has been Android on iPlayer. It's actually pretty funny. But the point being is, it's just something where you don't think about the problems and the stresses that you're currently having in life and whatnot. You're just putting these pieces together that fit, just gluing them down, priming it up, painting it. It's just relaxing. Same with horror films. With the horror film, you need to kind of be locked in. Anyway, we've rambled on for long enough, but that's just to give you a little tidbit of what's going on in your resident horror host's busy old, hectic old life. But the main bullet point is wife is okay, baby is okay, and that is the main thing. And with those things in place, we can then resume doing a bit of MOH goodness, a bit of horror goodness, a bit of watching horror, a bit of therapy, a bit of Tez therapy. But we have to get our ducks in a row first. That is the main thing. Fran says, "Oh, you don't need to tell me." I assume that is Warhammer related and maybe about learning to play the game. It's just, yeah. A channel that I've watched recently, which I think it's like Tabletop Tactics or something, they do 40k in 40 minutes, so quick games. They're entertaining watches. I still don't know what any of the rules are. And they did a video about learning how to play the game with the 11th edition that's come out. It's just so many components that they kind of go through in the first 10 minutes alone that it's just like, I'm not really going to get any of this. There's no way that I can get any of this. 1 second. Wife is messaging me, so I just need to make sure that she is okay. Boo, boo, boo. Second. The joys of doing it live. I feel I probably should go check. I will. We can edit this out. We can edit this out in post. But it's just typical. You go live and then you get a vague message. Bear with me one moment. I'll be right back. Thank you very much for sticking around. Everything's okay. It was a non-baby related emergency. It wasn't an emergency, but when your wife just come out of hospital, you can't really just ignore a message. Let's have a quick look at the chat before we resume this cluster F of a show. At least you're also getting to bits, so you're not stuck alone doing nothing. Well, thank you very much, Eddie. Yeah, I mean, the last few days have been pretty much visiting the hospital, staying there for long hours, coming home, feeding the dogs. Who, the dogs haven't been alone the whole time. We have a dog walker that pops around. But sorting that out, and then going back to the hospital, and then coming back, and then going straight to bed, but not really able to go to sleep. And it's just difficult doing that for a little while. So it was just amazing to have her home yesterday. Minnie's in more parts than they need to be. I've not really experienced it that much until the Demon Prince, and I was just like. And then the funny thing is, the next mini that I made was Master of Executions, which was literally 5 pieces. It was this bit is their entire back and legs. This bit is their front and one of their arms. That's the head, optional heads. That's a shoulder piece. Job done. So yeah, thank you very much for your patience, ghouls and fiends. Let's go ahead and get into the show. There's been no gaming news. Nothing new gaming wise. I might. Should time ever permit that I can stream again, I picked up on PC on Steam a little while ago Beyond Hanwell, which is a first-person horror game set in like London, and it was on PC and it was a real cheap price. I think it is available on consoles, but it was on sale, so I figured let's give it a go. I haven't had a chance yet to actually play it. I picked that up, and I picked up Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 3. Both in total, it was like £8. A bargain for 2 full games. So maybe I'll try and play that, because I haven't really played any horror games recently. There's not been anything on consoles that has grabbed my attention. That's either new or I'm not aware of. I haven't played. But yeah, maybe I'll try and play that. Don't do much PC gaming or much gaming at the moment anyway. So maybe we'll try that. Eddie in the chat. Take as much time as you need each time, because you need to be there for Vix and a future child. Yeah, thank you very much, Eddie. Right, ghouls and fiends. Let's jump into some horror news, shall we? And news is pretty weird right now. So, as per usual, blowdiscussing.com is where I got my horror news. Be sure to check them out. Always, report on your sources. Some people just give you the news as if they've uncovered it as a scoop that they've got themselves. Baloney. Report your sources. And of course, this is Eddie's favourite, John Squires. John Squires for Blow Discussing writes, Warner Brothers reportedly developing international Nightmare on Elm Street movie with Lee Cronin. Last November, Robert Englund had shared his thoughts on why there hasn't been any movement on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise in the past 16 years. Englund told IndieWire at the time, there are so many people involved who have a piece of the action. When Wes passed away, he left an awful lot of rights to his estate, Englund explained. He has many, many rights that he worked out between character titles and names and plots and things like that. New Line Cinema obviously has a big hand in it, and much of that was surrendered to Ted Turner, then went to Warner Brothers, so Warner Brothers has a huge piece of it. We bring this up because Englund was spot on, and things have only gotten more interesting since he made those comments last year. We had recently learned that Paramount has joined forces with the Craven estate to make a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie, based on Wes Craven's original screenplay for the original movie. But here's where things get really interesting. I'm going to have a quick swig. I've got such a dry mouth. Swig of beer for the working man. Bit of a Stone Cold reference there. I think it's SummerSlam this weekend. I'm so out of the loop with wrestling. Like WWE just seems incredibly sanitized right now, and I'm trying to get back to AEW. I find it difficult watching it on a delay because I'm always on YouTube. YouTube always has highlights and spoilers. It doesn't get shown in the UK for a couple of days afterwards. It's not a big deal, but I used to watch it on Triller. I don't think Triller exists anymore. If it does, I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to the news. I'm getting distracted. While the Craven estate has the domestic rights to Craven's original Elm Street screenplay, Warner Brothers' New Line actually retains the international rights to a Nightmare on Elm Street. And Puck News reports this week that Warner Brothers is actively developing their own Nightmare on Elm Street movie to compete with the announced Paramount project. Of course, what's particularly interesting about this whole mess is that Paramount is actively attempting to buy Warner Brothers, a sale which has been delayed until at least next year. Puck reports, sources with knowledge of the matter think Paramount figured out that by the time their movie got underway, the Warner Mount deal would have closed and Warner's would be compelled to release the Paramount version overseas. But Warner's Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi didn't care for that plan. Now they're looking to make their own movie, which they can only distribute overseas, and are in talks with Lee Cronin to produce, write, and direct. So what we have is a situation where Paramount's attempting to make one Nightmare on Elm Street movie for the domestic market, while Warner Brothers is attempting to make an entirely different Elm Street film project for the international market. The obvious solution here is for both entities to work with one another and bring all the rights together to make one proper Elm Street movie that can play in both markets, which could very well end up being the case if the Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery merger does end up taking place later next year. Sorry, I've been stifling that. So there's more. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we talked on the last show that we've got some exciting news. A new Nightmare on Elm Street film coming out. How is that going to look? How's that going to work? Who are we going to get as a new Freddy? Who are we going to have directing? But then a competing Elm Street movie, I think that could just be messy. And I would not be surprised if that causes one or both projects, should this go ahead, to seriously start touting Robert Englund to return. Now, another appearance of Robert Englund as Freddy. I mean, Freddy's always gold. No matter how much of a drizzling pile of piss the films have become in certain entities. I mean, 5 was boring. Freddy's Dead, I do think, is kind of entertaining. It's one of those it's so bad it's good films, I would say. It's nonsense, but I think it's fun enough. It's not that offensive. But Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger is never bad in any of them. Ultimately, he's getting on a bit. He's no spring chicken, as they say. So I don't really... And he said before that he'd be willing to reprise the role of Freddy Krueger, but maybe in animated form only. I could just see one of the projects just trying to throw a lot of money at him. And I just feel like if we want the series to continue and to be one of those continually evolving franchises, you have to find a new Freddy. Let the man rest, because we don't want to bring him back and we get the close-up quips, but then it's obvious that it's a stunt double doing the chasing, because Freddy's a very active serial killer in the films. Or we have Robert Englund portraying Freddy 100%, and it's like, oh, Freddy's walking like Michael Myers now. Freddy, blah, 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 blah. Critiques because Robert Englund can't run around like he did in the earlier films. I see that being the way that this could go. I mean, ultimately, I'm hyped for a new Nightmare on Elm Street film. End of. It can only be better than the remake. I really didn't like the remake. I think in this day and age, for the most part, when we're doing reboots and requels and reimaginings, they're generally a bit better at honouring aspects, I think. But as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of I Know What It Did Last Summer. That was terrible. And there's quite a few others that are really bad, actually. So who knows? It's a real dice throw as to whether it will be good or awful. We'll move on. Victorian Psycho. Official trailer. Micah Monroe slays the screen this September. John Squires writes. Micah Monroe stars in the upcoming psychological horror thriller Victorian Psycho, and Bleecker Street has unleashed the brand new official trailer today. Watch the official trailer for Victorian Psycho starring Micah Monroe online now. It releases in theatres September 25th, 2026. Micah Monroe stars eccentric governess Winifred Naughty, who arrives at a remote Gothic manor where strange happenings stir suspicion that she is not what she seems. Thomasin McKenzie, Jason Isaacs, Ruth Wilson, Amy DeBrun, and Hamnet breakout Jacoby Jupe also star. Zachary Wigan directed the film from a script by author Virginia Fato, based on her novel of the same name. Victorian Psycho is produced by Dan Kagan and Sebastian Raybaud. Victorian Psycho is rated R for strong, bloody violence and brief sexual material. I saw the trailer for this. It looks pretty good. I'll be giving it a watch. Love Micah Monroe. Big Micah Monroe fan. Long legs, of course, it follows. There's certain moments in the trailer where it's almost like she's channeling, is it Lily Rose Depp from Nosferatu? Pulling the similar sort of faces to her when she's sort of going through that kind of weird possession under the spell sort of moment. Fran in the chat says, biggest trouble with any new Elm Street project, in my opinion, is its success rests on how good the actor playing Freddy is. I agree to an extent, but the thing is, the Nightmare remake had Jackie Earle Healy, whatever, playing Freddy, and I think he's a great actor for the most part. I mean, I say that, I've not actually seen him in that much, to be honest. Very good in Watchmen. And I think he did decent enough Freddy, but I just felt like, you don't have to go quip heavy, because Freddy, I think I've said Jason a couple of times, Freddy wasn't quip heavy really in the first one. A little bit. They really then obviously ramped them up as the sequels went on. He had a couple of quips, a few quips in the first film, but he was also a bit more of the menacing horror side. So I think it's just playing into the Nightmare world a bit more. I really don't think they did a very good job of that in the remake. And again, as with the sequels, things get more elaborate, things get more over the top. But that adds to the fun of it. We need to have those moments where, okay, we're now realizing that they're dreaming. Initially it's like things are normal, but okay, I mean, I was actually dreaming. And as things continue, it's very apparent that you're in a nightmare realm because the things that are happening are outlandish. I mean, obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Dream Warriors, there's the moment of like the snake Freddy starting to try and swallow the girl. Yeah, I think it was kind of missing that aspect. So, interesting to see where it goes. Next up in the news, Evil Dead Burn heads home to digital in August and physical media in September. Exclusive for Blood Disgusting. John Squires writes. 1 second. It's typical. I never get messages and phone calls, and as soon as I start doing a live show, it's just you couldn't guess it. You couldn't. I don't know. I think I'm having a stroke right now. Anyway, John Squires' Evil Dead Burn news. Billed as the franchise's most savage and terrifying ride to date, director Sebastian Vanecek's Evil Dead Burn has been blazing up on the big screen for the last few weeks, and Bloody Disgusting has exclusively learned that the film is coming home in 1 week. Evil Dead Burn debuts digitally at home in the US and Canada on August 4th. And then on September 22nd, Evil Dead Burn will be available to own on 4K UHD, Blu-ray and DVD from online and physical retailers. Evil Dead Burn will also continue to be available in high definition and standard definition from participating digital retailers. Evil Dead Burn Digital 4K and Blu-ray release contains the following special features. Evil Dead, Blazing the Trail. Director Sebastian Vanecek and his crew explore how Evil Dead Burn honours the franchise's ever-evolving legacy while introducing a daring new vision. The Hot Shot, Evil Dead Burn's one-shot sequence. Dive into Evil Dead Burn's most gripping scene as cast and crew detail the intense focus and synergy required to create the complex one-shot sequence. This one's gonna burn. Explore the fire-fueled chaos of Evil Dead Burn by witnessing how the stunts and effects team brought the film's physical horror to life. Okay, so we'll be talking a bit more about Evil Dead Burn later on in the show. Let's move on to our last bit of horror news. Ma 2 update. We're working hard on getting a great script out. John Squires writes. It's now been 7 years since the release of Blumhouse's Ma, starring Oscar winner Octavia Spencer, with talks of a sequel dating back to last year. Last we heard, Emmy winner Ashley Nicole Black would be writing the screenplay for Ma 2, and Octavia Spencer provides an update and a chat with Entertainment Weekly. We're working hard on getting a great script out. Blumhouse is the best at what they do. It's going to be chock full of surprises, Octavia Spencer tells the outlet in a fresh update. Ma has proven to be a social phenomenon since its release in 2019, with fans eagerly embracing the film and Octavia's iconic performance as Ma. Ma likes to say, "Don't make me drink alone," so we're thrilled Octavia will join us again for a second round. Blumhouse founder CEO Jason Blum had teased when the sequel was originally announced last summer. Spencer plays Sue Ann in Ma, a loner who keeps to herself in her quiet Ohio town. One day she is asked by Maggie, a new teenager in town, to buy some booze for her and her friends, and Sue Ann sees the chance to make some unsuspecting, if younger, friends of her own. While no director has been announced as of yet, Tate Taylor helmed the 2019 original from a script by Scotty Lands. Taylor previously detailed that Sue Ann's fate was intentionally ambiguous, so the door was open for a return in a possible sequel. That Ma earned more than $60 million at the box office meant a sequel was practically inevitable. It also doesn't hurt that the character popped on social media, becoming something of a viral meme sensation. I can't really remember what happened in Ma. It was fine. I thought it was all right, you know. I can't say necessarily that I thought it was one of the better Blumhouse releases. I didn't think it was bad, but I just can't remember much about it, to be honest. I think Octavia Spencer was good in it. I can't remember if or who she killed in it. Can't really remember what her motivation was. Can't remember if she's done it previously. You know, it's one of those films that I watched and then it was left my brain, you know. Which happens a lot, I'll be honest. It happens a lot. Anyway, that's it for the news. Let's move on to some reviews in what has been the longest but least content-filled episode in quite a while due to stuff. We're going to start off the reviews with Jimmy and Stiggs. So, with Ministry of Horror, on our reviews, what we like to do is talk a little bit about the plot, talk about the highs, talk about the lows. Then I will give you my score out of 10. That is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to say, hey, you know what, you're spot on. We really like it. I'm going to follow you on social media. You can do at the various different platforms. TikTok being the one that is popping the most. So if you haven't, follow that. Or if not, follow whatever you're listening or watching on. You know, follow on the YouTube. Come on, let's build up the YouTube. So, Jimmy and Stiggs is a 2024 American science fiction horror film written and directed by Joe Begos. Premiered at Beyond Fest and was the first film released by Eli Roth's The Horror Section. It stars Joe Begos as Jimmy Lang, Matt Mercer as Stiggs Randolph, and Riley Dandy as Lexi. Jimmy and Stiggs follows Jimmy Lang, a filmmaker who, after claiming he was abducted by aliens, contacts his estranged friend Stiggs Randolph. The two reunite at Jimmy's Los Angeles apartment to prepare for an impending extraterrestrial attack. Most of the film takes place within the apartment as the two attempt to survive a siege by alien creatures. So, it should come as no surprise. If you've seen Jimmy and Stiggs, it should come as no surprise that this is the same guy that was involved in Christmas Bloody Christmas. Slightly more surprising, I should say, maybe that he was also involved as the writer, director, producer of Bliss, and also the director and producer of VFW. Two pretty good and inventive horrors that are quite brutal, I must say. I mention that because this is like an amped up version of the elements that I didn't really like in Christmas Bloody Christmas. Now, Christmas Bloody Christmas was an inventive enough setup for a Christmas horror film. Santa Claus androids that, you know, you have in like supermarkets or malls, and one has gone haywire and is going around brutally murdering people. It had some decent locations. It had some decent moments of peril. Some good kills, but it also had incredibly unlikable characters. The script was like a Rob Zombie script, you know. It's just like it's like someone thinking, well, this is how cool people speak. Like, yeah, maybe, but like it doesn't make for a compelling performance if every other word is fuck, fuck, fuck. You know, it's just you got to make it a little bit more nuanced. You got to just, not make everyone just seem deplorable, because then who do you root for? Jimmy and Stiggs is a amped up element version of that element. It mixes POV shots with then your standard traditional cinematic shots, but it is pretty much entirely, for the most part, set in Jimmy's apartment. It's over the top splatter gore, but it's also that sort of, because of having aliens involved in it, the splatter gore is all like neon orange, yellow, green, and red, but really sort of thick and vascous. I don't know if that's the correct word for this, but over the top. Doesn't look very realistic. The aliens are like the greys, but are basically like not even really animatronics. They're like kind of fighting toys, basically. So I kind of feel that, I don't know, it doesn't say what the budget was for this, but it feels like it would have been quite low. I mean, for the most part, for a watch, it passes the time, I guess, but it did feel like, look, we need to get a film made to fill a contract requirement. Let's just grab a camera, grab some fake blood ooze stuff, and get someone who has a basic knowledge of VFX, and we'll just run with it and see what happens. And I guess, more power to them. I'm not going to poo-poo on that, too much, because horror getting made is great. It just doesn't help when everyone, well, especially Jimmy, who's essentially our anti-hero protagonist, is incredibly unlikable in this. Yeah, it's not something I would recommend. And I think it highlights how disappointing it is that Bliss was quite original. It was decent. VFF is actually quite good. It's not just passable, it's actually quite good. But Christmas Bloody Christmas, not that entertaining really at all. And Jimmy and Stiggs, we're gonna go middle of the road here. We're gonna give it 5 out of 10. If you go in it not expecting much, if you know that it's going to be a bit grimy, a bit nasty with bad effects, but it's like that overtop kind of nonsense gore and neon lighting, it might well be your thing. And it's got like a garage rock sort of soundtrack similar to Christmas Bloody Christmas, but don't go in expecting too much, I would say. 5 out of 10 Jimmy and Stiggs. Next up, released on Prime this week, The Devil's Mouth. Again, to give a shout out to Fran for recommending this in the chat, on the basis that, Fran knows that my wife is a big creature feature fan. She loves Jaws. She loves, animal attack films. Not a big horror fan, but when it's animals involved, then it's fair play. We're gonna go with our review on this. So, Devil's Mouth, the 2026 American survival thriller film directed by Jeff Wardlow. The film stars Catherine Newton, Lana Condor, Gavin Castellano, and Nico Hirega. In the film, a group of friends exploring an underwater cave system fight for survival against a ravenous bull shark. Released on 29th of July on Prime Video. College friends, sorry, just seeing the chat. Eddie saying, sorry, Tez, because my Wi-Fi is playing up, I'm going to have to go. See you all later. Have a good one. Thank you very much, Eddie. Hope you have a great weekend. And we'll be getting this uploaded this weekend. Around the chat, an unlikable protagonist really can pull you out of a film. That's the thing. It's such a shame if you have a film that, when you stick with it, it goes on to be pretty good in terms of good story beats, good action, good kills, whatever it is, good music. But if a lot of the focus is on a protagonist that you just find either irritating or downright unlikable, it automatically, for me at least, drops my score down by at least 1, if not 2. I just sort of feel like this could have been a pretty good film if not for that performance, that character as a whole, or that actor. Because sometimes it could be the performance is enough to really put you off, and maybe the character was written, you were to look at it on a script basis, the character might actually be quite likable or quite brash, but not in an off-putting way. But yeah, when that happens, it's difficult to stick with it. So, college friends Sarah, Max, James, Adrienne, and Greg are on holiday in Thailand. Sarah and Max are close friends, but Sarah often finds her opinions overruled by Max's controlling personality, struggles to stand up for herself. While the group are partying on a yacht, Sarah is left behind in the water and is stung badly by a school of jellyfish. Sarah forgives Max even though it was his fault the yacht left without her. His fault, I think. Max is a woman. The next day, the group decides to tour a set of underwater caves called the Devil's Mouth. They meet tour guide Watt, who Max, feeling guilty about leaving Sarah behind, secretly tips him to keep a close eye on Sarah. Sarah finds out, feeling infantilized. So, I'll just say that as the setup, but essentially a group of friends go swimming in a cave, which has got loads of really cool areas in Thailand. But this is a creature feature. This is a shark film. As mentioned, they find themselves stuck, being hunted by a ravenous bull shark. The cave aspect and the stuck aspect and the feeling lost kind of gave me some parallels a little bit to The Descent, which isn't a bad film to be compared to by any stretch. Now, it's not as if there's sharks coming out the wall and it's all pitch black and all that stuff, but in terms of some of the character relationships, maybe not nowhere near as nuanced as The Descent, but had a couple of moments that kind of had a little bit of a feeling of that. It's shot beautifully. It looks really good. Like the, I don't know, 8K, 4K, 8K, whatever sort of cameras they used. It's a really nice looking film. There's particular moments in certain areas of the cave. Like there's a particular cave section which is all dark, but something in the water causes like blue, luminous sort of ripples. It's a nice film to look at. I'll say that much. I did think that Lana Condor wasn't that good in this. I will be honest. Not entirely sure. She wasn't like objectively bad. But Catherine Newton's always a pretty solid choice, and her leading a film is nice to see. But Lana playing opposite her, yeah, she wasn't great. I will be honest. The shark. Now, me and the wife discussed this, that it seems to be no matter what budget a film has, or no matter how good or bad a film looks, shark CGI just never seems to be all that good. Now, I appreciate that it's been many years since Jaws, and I appreciate that apparently the Jaws animatronic was a pain in the arse to work with, but it still looks better than CGI sharks. Now, you can have CGI for all of the swimming moments and quick sort of movements, I suppose, but then when you say the close-ups of the shark's face and mouth, it's okay, I've seen worse CGI sharks in films, but I've probably also seen better as well. I think even it might be a bit outlandish to say, but I'd probably even go so far as to say Deep Blue Sea sharks look better than this shark. But it doesn't look. I don't want to feel like I'm kind of crapping all over it, but it doesn't seem like it was the best looking shark for a film that had a pretty decent cast in Catherine Newton at least, and it's shot very well. But the locations as well are really, really good. And the cave system they go in the Devil's Mouth looks great as well. So that's only a slight niggle, I would say. In terms of the kills, shark attack films are an odd one because some of the kills in this are quite good, but a lot of them are shark grabs person, pulls them away, goes down underwater. Sometimes there's the shark thrashing and you can see some blood and whatnot. But it's definitely more a thriller film than a horror film. It wasn't going for the gory, visceral attacks. If you think back, like some parts of Jaws, I think it's in Jaws 2 that you see one of the divers going into the mouth of the shark and the shark's closing its teeth on him. I think that might be Jaws 2, it might be Jaws 3 perhaps. But those moments, a lot more terrifying. When you see characters suddenly being grabbed and then pulled underwater, and then that's the kill. From a horror aspect, it's a little bit boring, but I appreciate that this isn't going out to be an out-and-out horror film, and it's more so about the fact that these people have been stuck and hunted, and one by one they're being picked off. So it's a comment more than a major criticism, but just something to be aware of if you're looking for like a gnarly shark attack film. Yeah, I mean, overall, we enjoyed it. Stiggs' initial score, I think, was like 7.5. Before I then mentioned some of the things that I picked up on that I would say were just things that I would not have that knock my score down a little bit, but not terrible. When I think of recent animal attack films that we've watched, the killer whale film, which was that was really bad. I think this is for me is a solid 6 out of 10. I knock it down just a bit because I did think Lana Condor as Max was not that great. Some of the CGI moments, the close-ups of the shark, were just a little bit take you out of it a bit. But on the whole, we had a good time. It shot beautifully. The story's decent. It's inventive in some places. I think my favorite recent shark film is still going to be Dangerous Animals. Yeah, I just think that was great. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me for The Devil's Mouth. And then finally, went to watch Evil Dead Burns. Or Evil Dead Burn, I should say, not plural. Evil Dead Burns, a 2026 American supernatural horror film directed and written by Sebastian Vanecek, who co-wrote it with Florent Bernard and produced by Rob Tapert and series creator Sam Raimi. It serves as a sequel to Evil Dead Rise and the 6th installment in the Evil Dead franchise. The film stars Suhaila Yacoub as a young woman who seeks solace with her in-laws following the death of her husband. As the family comes together in a secluded house, the gathering becomes a family reunion from hell, as members gradually turn into deadites. It also stars Tandy Wright, Hunter Doohan, Luciane Buchanan, Errol Shand, and Maud Davey in supporting roles. So, at his family's lake house, Joseph Price researches his late grandfather Benjamin's studies about the Necronomicon and Deadites. He uncovers the Kandarian dagger, which Benjamin claims can destroy Deadites. His discovery attracts Deadite Jessica, who murders a pair of fishermen before making her way towards Joseph. Joseph's brother Will gets into a fight with his wife Alice and drunkenly drives away, crashing into Jessica. As he burns to death in the car wreck, Jessica recites a passage from the Necronomicon and passes the Deadite possession to Will. Sometime later, Alice, Joseph, and his girlfriend Taya, his parents Susan and Edgar, and grandmother Polly reunite for Will's cremation. That's what kind of brings the family sort of reunion together. So Evil Dead Burn has, for an Evil Dead film, had fairly mixed reviews. Now, I managed to go into this avoiding all spoilers, which was great because I'd wanted to see it at the point of release. That didn't happen due to various things. So I did eventually get to see it. It'd been out for over a week. And normally at this point, social media, just ruins everything. And I just don't go on social media. But, when I'm trying to build a Ministry of Horror channel, I have to post. I just also scroll in general, just looking at funny reels to send to my friends. But people don't do spoiler warnings, they just put things out there. So either way, I went into this knowing very little. I'd heard the mixed response. Some people saying, ignore the haters, it's a great film. Others saying, it's maybe the worst in the series. Not bad, but not as good as the other entries, and it's very mean-spirited. So I didn't exactly know what to expect from that comment of it being mean-spirited. But I get it. So it's a sequel in so much as Jessica, whatever her name is, Jessica is the Deadite from the start and end of Evil Dead Rise. So it's a nice bit of connective tissue bringing us back to that location. I think what is a potential issue for this a bit in this film, which is something we briefly discussed about with Jimmy and Stiggs, is the protagonist issue. Now, it's not so much that our protagonist in Evil Dead Burns unlikable. But in terms of final girls, I feel you get behind her, and that's maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but she's clearly our main character, so I feel you do get behind her through the film, but never to the point where it's like a Laurie Strode or any such like that. You know, our introduction to all of the characters doesn't make any of them that appealing. The mean-spiritedness, a particular character does kill a dog. Dog kill warning there, just in case that's the sort of thing that you do not like, which I do not like. But that is particularly brutal. A lot of the attacks and kills in this film are particularly brutal, and it's an Evil Dead film. I mean, it's in line with the series. I mean, Christ, in the first Evil Dead, someone gets stabbed in the ankle with a pencil and then the pencil ground around. I mean, that's still a gnarly scene to this day. Another character gets their eyes thumbed out, and eye thumbing, it's become a little bit more common these days, but for a long time it did not happen that often in films. They'd probably get slapped with an X rating or be banned by the BBFC. So, which Evil Dead did. Funnily enough, video nasty. But my point being is that there's, yeah, it's in line with the nastiness, but the nastiness was more, I suppose, inventive ways of causing a kill or causing an attack. There's been a tattoo gun in Rise. There's been syringes in Evil Dead 2013. And obviously we've got the original trilogy. Not so much Army of Darkness. That is more of a comedy film. Well, my point being is that you had scares but humour. There is a little bit of humour in this from the grandmother, I will say. It's not completely devoid of humour. But it is very much in the vein of 2013 and Rise, where it's less about the comedic moments and kind of slapstick feeling, and it is more, you know, nasty kills. But the reason that I think it has that mean-spirited edge is there's a lot of almost beating someone to death, or along those lines, visceral beatdowns. And I get that's an evolution, and why wouldn't, you know, a Deadite will obviously take on, it's a demonic possession, and it will do certain traits of a person and whatnot. But it's weird how if you can have a film where someone's being stabbed or shot or burnt or whatever, and it's one thing, you know, you watch it and you think, oh wow, that's grisly. But if someone's being like, sorry, there's something going on outside the house. If someone's being like repeatedly beaten in the face or whatever, or smashed into things, it's a bit like, oh god, this is kind of heavy going, is it not? Yeah, that was the aspect that I kind of think maybe this is where it's got its mean-spirited moniker. It didn't take away from the film for me, though. I generally enjoyed the story. I think we got a bit of an evolution with this, with the Necronomicon, with the Kandarian dagger, which I don't think has featured since either Evil Dead. Is it an Army of Darkness? It's definitely an Evil Dead 2. Could it be the first appearance of Evil Dead 2? And don't quote me on that. I haven't rewatched the sequels in a while. I only recently rewatched the first Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. But I liked that. I liked having a reason to bring that in, and also then the reason for the Deadite infestation to focus there and move in that direction. On the whole, I enjoyed the story. There were a couple of moments where I legitimately was like, oh my god, jumped out of my seat. I just don't think I enjoyed it as much as, I'll say, Evil Dead Rise. I mean, 2013 is excellent. The original trilogy, or the original two, I'm not that fussed on. Army of Darkness are, you know, untouchable in terms of their legacy. But you know, I really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. I thought Evil Dead Burn is decent, though. And I have flitted a bit between a 6.5 and a 7. I don't think I can go higher than a 7 because I just feel a number of the characters aren't that likable, really, in this. And our protagonist is decent, but our introduction to them wasn't that great. Didn't set a great first impression. So I feel that these things have an effect. Overall, it is a very good film, though. I didn't have a bad time watching it, but I do feel that I would have to at least say that Evil Dead Rise is better than this, and I would say Evil Dead 2013 is better than Rise. Where the original trilogy factor in against those ones, I'm not too sure right now. But in terms of the newer entries, I would say, that this is at the bottom of that pile. But it is still very much worth a watch. I'm going to give Evil Dead Burn 7 out of 10. That brings us to the end of another edition of the Ministry of Horror. I have been your host, Tez. If you'd like to follow the show or support the show, whatever you're listening or watching this on, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. All that's engagement stuff. If you're watching if you're listening actually on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, be sure to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, follow the channel, review the channel, maybe give us 5 stars if you want. TikTok is the growing platform. That's where we are most likely to, build at this rate. But, who knows? Support and build on the other platforms. Well, of course, we're also on Instagram and Facebook, I think. But if you really want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Ministry of Horror. We have a number of different tiers there. Occasionally bonus podcasts go up. Appreciate that it has been slow in the last couple of weeks where life has taken over, but I can't really put anything ahead of my wife and child. So, if that does affect the want to follow and support on there, I completely understand. But if you want to support the channel, we have a number of different tiers. So, of course, I need to give a shout out to our particular tiered members of JP. Appreciate you, dude, because you're a very, very helpful friend. And, of course, the Gruff. So, thank you very much for all y'all done on there. A friend in the chat has just said, just found out there's a Nick Cage horror called The Carpenter's Son on Prime. Might be one for the weekend. Now, The Carpenter's Son, I do need to watch. That's reminded me, a little while ago, I did get an invite to go to an advanced screening of that. I couldn't because it clashed with something else. And recently, actually, this past Monday, I had an invite to go for the Ministry of Horror to watch an advanced screening of the latest Twisted Childhood film, Pinocchio Unstrung. Now, I'm not a big Twisted Childhood franchise fan, as we've mentioned on the show, but that one looks very, very interesting. So I wanted to go to that, but a mixture of things. One, how would I have got there? Crutches, cast on my leg. Couldn't have taken the train. I couldn't have asked Victoria to take me because at that time she still had work. And obviously things have then, changed in this last week. But that's one that it reminded me because of I'm pretty sure The Carpenter's Son was another one. But yeah, that's one that I would have really liked to have gone to see, especially on a press pass. Like, that doesn't happen every day. So hopefully we'll get more opportunities, and hopefully at that point I won't be hobbling around. But yeah, Carpenter's Son might be one to watch. Non-horror related, we still want to watch Project Hail Mary. Hear a lot of good things about that, and that is on Prime. And Fran, yeah, looping back to the start of the show, is Robert Englund's in that. Exactly. It's all connected. Synergy. Anyway, I need to edit this show because obviously there's a huge gap where I had to deal with some family stuff. But thank you very much for watching or listening and supporting the channel. It means a huge amount to me. I'm probably also going to try and do some Warhammer because that's my therapy. I'll catch you guys later.